Hello, today I am going to introduce to you the big three: in, on, at. And I have drawn a picture to help you understand exactly what I mean as I'm talking, because I find that visual aids help. This is a target. It's something that usually people throw things at, but I don't want you throwing anything at me, certainly not this TV or your dad's computer or your phone. Don't throw things, but this is just a picture to help. And the whole point of this is that the first thing you need is some kind of a target. A target is just something that has shape. Something that has a boundary or a limit. That's the first thing we need in order to talk about this very first idea, in. Let's start by using the picture of a place, because this is a little easier. I want you to imagine like you have a map of the entire world. Maybe you're on the computer and you're looking at the whole planet on some sort of very popular interface. That's just a fancy word for like an app. But you're looking at the world, and you can look anywhere in the world because the world is really just a big target. But you can now start to zoom. You can start to look closer at a specific point in the world, but we're not going to get to at for a very long time. We're going to start by looking at the world, but looking in the continent of Asia. There's a lot of countries in Asia. And if you look through Asia, you can zoom in a little further and you can look in Korea. You can zoom up until Korea is your target. Korea is the outline. And you can look in Korea until you look in Seoul. Seoul is a city in Korea. And you can keep looking more closely at this picture, and you will eventually look in an area or a neighborhood called Pangbae. And once you get to Pangbae, you're going to start seeing streets very clearly. You're going to start seeing these lines, and if I could read any of the names of the streets, I could tell you exactly what street we are on. And this is the one place in looking at the map where we would use this preposition, on. A street is pretty big, and we can look on a street until we find an exact address. And if I could tell you where we were on the street, then I would be more specific about us being at IQ. So, for place, in, on, at works best like you're looking at a map. And in the continent, in the country, in the city, in the area, in the neighborhood, you will eventually get to a street. And if you look on a street, you will eventually find an exact location. And that exact address is the only time that you would use at. Now, if you could create a map of time in the same way, it's a little harder, but we can think about time being big. You could even get bigger time than this first one, which is a century. A century is 100 years, and there are chunks of time or pictures of time bigger than that. But we're not going to go there. We're going to start at century, 100 years. And I can tell you I was born in the 20th century. That doesn't mean I'm 100 years old, even though it was the last century, because we're only a few years, 19 years into this one, so you know I'm older than 20. You didn't know that already? Well, you're very young or very old. But I was born in the 20th century, and I can tell you that my favorite music is music that was made in the 90s. And I can tell you that, well, this happened long before I was born. America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in the year 1492, I think. I don't know, I'm not American, so I should probably know this, but this is my best guess. I can tell you that I personally love the weather in July because it's warm and I hate being cold. I grew up in Canada and I know some people here in Korea really like the weather in December. I'm a summer person. Even if I'm a little warm, I prefer the warmth in July than the cold in December or January or February. And I can tell you that in the last week of August, in this year, I am going to be in Canada, visiting my family. So with time, it works in much the same way. We start really big and we start to narrow down. And where it changes, and this is much more commonly used when talking about time than talking about place, when it changes to on is when we talk about the day. So if you are talking about something that happens on a specific day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you would use on. And those last two, Saturday and Sunday, you can actually mush them together because we often call them the weekend. And you can say, well, I'm doing something on the weekend, but I will see you in the next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. When we get to time, the address of time is the exact time. So there are some words you need to know that are exact times, like at midnight or at noon. You can even say at sunset or at dawn. Those are considered specific times, but usually we mean at 9:53. I'm actually not wearing a watch, but if I were, that would be how I tell you exactly the time that at would be used. So things like we're having lunch at 1, or you need to wake up early, so I'm setting your alarm at 6:55. These are the big three: in, on, at. Let's review.
The big three of time and place: in, on, at. According to the video, what is a target? A target is something that has a boundary or a limit. Which of the big three prepositions in, on, at is the outer, most general part of the target? In is the outer or most general part of the target. What are some places we use with the preposition in? Continents, countries, cities, neighborhoods, areas are prepositions used with in. Which of the big three prepositions in, on, at is the middle or more specific part of the target? On is the middle or more specific part of the target. What is a place we use with the preposition on when giving directions? We use on when we talk about streets. Which of the big three prepositions in, on, at is the smallest or most specific part of the target? At is the smallest or most specific part of the target. What are some times we use with the preposition in? Centuries, decades, years, months, weeks, are times used with the preposition in. What are some times we use with the preposition on? Holidays, days, weekends are times used with the preposition on. What are some times we use with the preposition at? Specific times, for example, 6 a.m., 7:45, 12 o'clock, noon, midnight, etc., are times used with the preposition at.